Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, unrest growing on the streets of Iran while Nicolás Maduro faces narco-terrorism charges in the U.S. Plus, U.S. college student leaders in Israel strategize about combating anti-Semitism back home. And on the Temple Mount, where exactly were the first and second temples? One engineer shares his observations and conclusions. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Julie Stahl. 2026 is starting off with a bang in terms of international news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro was captured and extradited to the U.S. to face charges of narco-terrorism. And in Iran, the unrest and protests are growing. Here's the latest on these stories and more.
Demonstrations in Iran are entering their second week, fueled by soaring prices and deep frustration with years of international isolation. Protests have spread to more than 220 locations across most of Iran's provinces, including the capital, Tehran, as the Islamic Republic's economy continues to unravel. Iran's currency has plunged into a free fall, with the rial now trading at more than $1 million to $1 US. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, dismissed the unrest and issued a warning as security forces moved to contain the demonstrations.
We talked to protesters. The officials must talk to them. But there is no benefit to talking to rioters. Rioters must be put in their place.
According to the U.S.-based human rights activists news agency, at least 19 people have been killed and more than 990 arrested, underscoring the growing volatility facing the regime at a moment of heightened international pressure. That pressure is now being amplified beyond Iran's borders. The weekend capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro and his wife in a surprise U.S. nighttime operation puts more pressure on Tehran. Venezuela has long served as a critical lifeline for the mullahs, allowing the regime to bypass sanctions in order to fund its armed proxies in their war on Israel. Hezbollah has also benefited by using Venezuela to raise funds through criminal and narcotics ties. After returning from meeting with President Trump in Florida, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the operation.
We congratulate President Trump on his decision, and we also salute the American military forces who carried out a perfect operation. We know how to appreciate something like that.
Netanyahu also confirmed Iran's nuclear program was central in his talks with Trump.
We reiterated our common position of zero enrichment and the need to remove the 400 kilograms of enriched material from Iran.
Venezuela's now acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, delivered a combative address on Saturday, suggesting that Israel played a role in the decision to launch the U.S. operation against her country. The governments of the world are simply shocked that it is the Bolivarian government of Venezuela which is the victim and subject of an attack of this nature, which has without a doubt a Zionist tint. Rodriguez demanded the couple's release, accused Washington of targeting Venezuela's energy resources, and ordered troops to be deployed across major cities. For Iran, the fall of Maduro comes at a moment of deep internal unrest, stripping the regime of an overseas lifeline just as its economy falters and protests spread nationwide. According to new intelligence reports, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has a plan to leave Tehran if his regime collapses. The 86-year-old cleric would go to Moscow with his family and inner circle if security forces fail to crush the expanding protests. The report comes as demonstrations continue to spread nationwide, marked by increasingly open defiance of the Islamic Republic. Speaking with CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, global terrorism expert Dr. Amir Hamidi emphasized that what is unfolding now is not just another wave of unrest, but possibly a historic moment for the people of Iran.
Chris, what we are witnessing right now is not an isolated event. It is a turning point, I think, and this is a nationwide demand to end the Islamic Republic after 47 years of repression across Iran from Tehran, Isfahan to Shiraz. And Iranians are chanting, no to Gaza, no to Lebanon. I give my life for Iran, along with the death to the dictators, death to the Khamenei. And this is very interesting. We've seen this is happening, chanting all over Iran. And this is a year that I do strongly believe that the Islamic Republic will be toppled.
As pressure mounts, Tehran is lashing out at Israel. The foreign ministry is accusing Israeli leaders of stirring unrest.
Actions or statements by the Prime Minister of the Zionist regime, as well as by certain radical U.S. officials regarding Iran's internal affairs, are nothing but incitement to violence and killing in the language of international norms.
President Donald Trump signaled that the United States is closely monitoring the situation, underscoring that Tehran could face serious consequences if the regime moves to violently suppress the demonstrators.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard.
Meanwhile, Israeli officials say Iran's partnership with Venezuela has been used to extend its destabilizing reach far beyond the Middle East.
Now, the foreign ministry has actually said that Venezuela has destabilized the region there, serving as a base for Hezbollah terror operatives and hosting Iranian weapons production facilities.
U.S. forces reportedly attacked Hezbollah targets in the strike that captured Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro Saturday, and the Trump administration has proclaimed it will no longer tolerate an Iran-Hezbollah presence there. Against that backdrop, Israel carried out airstrikes on Hezbollah and Hamas targets in southern and eastern Lebanon, continuing to confront Iranian-backed threats. Joshua Swanson, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Virulent anti-Semitism is increasing globally, but just last month, something positive happened in Israel to counter that. More than 80 North American college student leaders arrived to network, learn about their heritage, and strategize on how to stand strong on campus. They were a very impressive group. Take a look. Student leaders from top universities, including UCLA, Brandeis, Rutgers, Yale, and NYU, arrived to gain firsthand insight into the aftermath of October 7th.
So they can go back to campus more confident to refute the lies of genocide, the lies that Israel is a racist country, and educate and inspire other people to stand up for Israel and stand up against anti-Semitism.
They visited areas directly affected by the war along the Gaza border and in the Golan Heights, and Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank, which are at the forefront of the battle ahead.
The trip is very intense, and it's designed and planned and built with very much a lot of intention to really shake them, but also to give them the right information to be effective activists on campus.
Michael Eglash, co-founder of IsraelAmbassadors.com, a campus activist himself in the 1990s, says anti-Semitism was as much of a problem then as it is now.
Nothing has really changed. We just have social media, we have more media, and it's elevated and amplified.
The students come with different backgrounds and have had various experiences on their campuses. Even though many have Israeli relatives, the trip was still an eye-opener. Julia Schulman from Connecticut College says she's experienced anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism in her class curriculum and from the rhetoric of her professors. Her highlight was going through Judea and Samaria.
Going to the site and the land that people are disputing and talking about was extremely eye-opening for me. We talked to people who actually live there in Jewish communities. It was very impactful. I think I'm going to use a lot of the knowledge that I've learned and the experiences that I've learned from that day going back to campus.
Another highlight included biblical Shiloh, where archaeologists have uncovered many ancient treasures.
Just seeing the historical roots of the Jewish people in the land gave me a lot of very empowering and gave me a lot of firsthand knowledge and experience that is really undisputed. You can't dispute the ruins that you find when you dig up in the land of Shiloh.
Virginia Tech student Yoav Kelter says there's a very small Jewish group facing a large Arabic and Muslim population at his school, driving the point home about Israel even more.
We have to just be more confident, be strong, just like Israel in the Middle East is surrounded by all of these Arabic countries, and all these times in the past we faced hardships and we faced all of them attacking us at once. Even if I'm one voice and they're 100, I can still be louder than all of them.
While in Israel, Yoav enjoyed meeting people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, and cultures.
Being able to go back to my camp and seeing I've talked to all these different people and I've learned all these different things. You've only seen videos online, who are you to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about?
Oregon State senior Yael Reich says life was normal for her at school until October 7th.
I've been called a Nazi on campus. I was tabling for October 7th this year, to bring the hostages home. I was giving flowers out on campus, and people came up to me and called me a Nazi.
She had never been to biblical Judea and Samaria, and something she saw in Jerusalem had a message she wants to convey.
I saw specifically a banner when we were outside of President Herzog's house that said, "All we want is to give peace a chance." And I think I just want to relay that message to people at home, or just tell them to listen to the stories and listen to people.
Dan Garniak from UC Santa Barbara says he's encountered pro-Palestinian protests and blatant anti-Semitic incidents, especially if they hear him speaking Hebrew.
You can't really defeat anti-Semitism. What you can do is build yourself up, be strong, and be able to take care of it.
Visiting Kibbutz Be'eri, one of the hardest hit communities on October 7th, gave him new insight.
It was a very difficult experience, seeing all the burnt houses and hearing all the stories. And I gained so many new perspectives during this trip, and I feel like I'm truly ready to come back to campus and fight the anti-Semitism.
The man in our next story brings an engineer's eye to a question people have asked for centuries. Where exactly were the first and second Jewish temples? He says some of the clues are hiding in plain sight. Here's his conversation with our bureau chief, Chris Mitchell.
Christian Widener, thanks for joining us on Jerusalem Dateline. You've written a book called The Temple Revealed, the true location of the Jewish temple hidden in plain sight. First of all, great to be with you. Tell us why you believe you know where the location of the first and second Jewish temples were.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Because there's two landmarks that I think have been overlooked that really go back to the original Jewish temple, I would say even the first temple, actually. And so how do we know that there's landmarks? There's the Golden Gate that people have said, and a lot of different historians or archaeologists have made the claim that that's not the original gate going back to the temple times. Some other archaeologists say it is the original gate that goes back to the temple times. And so, in that, when you have a bunch of different voices, you don't know which is true. I wanted to know, so as an engineer, I started looking at what's the evidence for whether that gate was really a landmark. And the reason why it would be a landmark is because the Mishnah records that all those gates were in line with the Holy of Holies all the way out to the Eastern Gate. And so if the Golden Gate is actually an original gate from the temple, then it's a genuine landmark. And when you start thinking about when it was built, the history records, like the pilgrims, all the way back to the Piacenza pilgrim in 570 AD, that the gate was there.
Okay.
And even Josephus says that the gates of the temple were all destroyed except for two, the East Gate and the South Gate.
So that's one. What would be the second landmark?
So the second one is under the Dome of the Spirits. It's a piece of flat bedrock. And a lot of people think that the bedrock that's under the Dome of the Rock must have been the location of the temple, but it's missing one key characteristic: it's not flat. And a threshing floor had to be a flat surface, and there is a perfectly flat bedrock surface on the Temple Mount platform, and it's actually under the Dome of the Spirits. It was certified as being bedrock by Charles Warren in his survey of Western Palestine, so we know that it is really bedrock, and it's perfectly in line with that gate. Perpendicular, a line through that gate, lines are up directly onto the Dome of the Spirits. The probability of that happening by accident is 0.07%, or a 99.93% chance that alignment is on purpose. And so And the scriptures tell us in 2 Chronicles that the temple was built on the threshing floor. Good. Yeah, so if you have the threshing floor, you know where the Holy of Holies was.
Right.
We have the record that the East Gate was built directly in line with the temple. And we have historic records that show that the East Gate was never destroyed. And so then you have actually the two landmarks that show you where the temple really was.
Yeah, so the Dome of the Spirits is a bit north of the
It is north of the current
the Dome of the Rock. Charles Warren was a British archaeologist, explorer back in the 19th century.
He was actually one of the few people who've been able to do genuine archaeological investigations on the Temple Mount. Since that time, it's basically been closed, and then hence the debate and the speculation about where the temple is located. But I think the evidence has been actually hidden in plain sight. Yeah. Two things that have never been moved. One that's bedrock, that means it goes all the way back to the time of really Abraham and Isaac, but when David bought the threshing floor of Aruna, and then the Golden Gate that also goes back to the time of the temple.
So it's fascinating. And you put all that in the Temple Revealed, the true location of the Jewish temple, hidden in plain sight. So if this is true, what are the consequences? What's the significance of this?
So the significance is you could actually build a Jewish temple north of the Dome of the Rock, and you wouldn't interfere with any Muslim structures. So there's that. Of course, there's obviously a lot of implications religiously and politically associated with that, but I think it also proves that this isn't genuinely the location of the Jewish temple. And so if there's a question about whether there really was a Jewish presence on the Temple Mount or not, I think this should settle that question as well and show that they really do have a place in history centered at that location. And I think for believers, it also points to there's a messianic tradition about the Lord coming back, the Messiah coming through the East Gate, and it kind of establishes that that is the gate that we should be looking for. In fact, there's even a prophecy in Ezekiel 44, I looked to the gate that faces east, and it was shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it, therefore it will remain shut. And we look at it today, and it's walled up, and we see a genuine gate, right?
Fascinating.
A fulfillment of prophecy.
And so how can people get your book?
So you can find it on Amazon and also my website, endtimesberean.com. You can actually even download a free PDF and take a look at all this evidence.
Sounds great. Christian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks to the support of our partners, CBN Israel meets the needs of Israelis in many different ways. Sometimes it's about providing food and helping people with home repairs. Other times, the needs are psychological, brought on by war and trauma. The woman in our next story is on the front row for it all, and it's her joy to be part of the process.
Here at CBN Israel, our team works tirelessly to ensure we impact the lives of the families and individuals that reach out to us for help.
They insisted of contacting us because they wanted to express their gratitude. They kept calling social services to convey their gratitude and their thanks. It is a miracle for me to know that someone sees us. Thank you for the food, the clean bed, and the attention. I wish we could have more hours in a day so we could spend more time with these people and help more families. A lot of Holocaust survivors need also psychological help. And there are different degrees. So some of them only need somebody to come and spend time with them because they're lonely.
Through practical aid, compassionate support, and a message of hope, our team strives not only to meet immediate needs, but also to empower people with the tools and advice they need to move forward and sometimes rebuild their lives. Yulia is CBN Israel's project lead for new immigrants and the elderly. She works very closely with our beneficiaries and can share an inside look at the situation in Israel.
These cities couldn't help these immigrants that are not very new. Somehow the municipalities were not able to help these people to get established and their children to get a better lives. Second generation that is still having the same problems that their parents had when they just arrived. And for those of you who are watching this, and of course we're very, very grateful for all the financial support, but also we would really appreciate your prayers for our work. And we need wisdom, we need God's guidance to reach those who are most in need, and that He would lead us to the right people. we're able to help in a significant way. So it's something that is really tangible. And so often people say that nobody else helped them, or it was difficult and they almost lost their hope. And then we came along and we really changed their lives sometimes. It's not always easy because you're exposed to difficult situations, and sometimes there is no easy answer how to help. But I think it's also wonderful because in these difficult situations, we're able to bring people comfort and express God's love in our actions.
Shoshana, I'm deeply grateful for the care, the warm room, and the respectful treatment. At my age, this is not taken for granted. Thank you for reaching out in such a difficult time. The feeling that someone is thinking of us gives me strength to carry on. Staying by the sea, the attitude of the hotel staff, this was the most beautiful period of my life.
That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and you can also access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. And don't forget to sign up for our email blasts so you can continue to receive all of our updates. And please, keep praying for Israel, the peace of Jerusalem, and for all those caught in harm's way. And remember, the God who watches over Israel, and you and me, neither slumbers nor sleeps. I'm Julie Stahl. For all of us here at the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.